Hello. Nice to see you again. Been a while, huh? Yeah. A lot has happened in the past month or so. What have I been up to, you ask? Well, I could tell you, but sadly, it's confidential. Even for you, sweetie. Let's just say they bought my disguise. For a time. But that's not why you're sitting here right now, I bet. You want some alcohol, right? Oh, you don't? You don't drink, huh? That's fine. Well, I do. And you want to know why? Because this topic drives me to want to drink. You saw the title, you know what I mean. Yep, it's about time for me to tank my like-to-dislike ratio again and trigger everybody with my opinions. Weird how being trans tends to piss off both sides. Don't worry, all you conservatives who were worried that I was just gonna dump on you all day long. Not really, there's just as much fury coming from TERFs. That's trans exclusionary radical feminist for the uninitiated. So, both sides hate me. Huh. Just the way I like it. Also, in the interest of being upfront, I could sit here and show you countless studies about why I believe I'm right, but I'm not going to do that simply because this tends to not be convincing to people who don't already agree with you. I'm not interested in having fights with which studies are legit or not, because those fights always end the same. My study claims that my argument is the truth. Oh yeah? Well, this study actually proves that my argument is the truth. Look, be my guest if you want to engage with that shit, but that's gonna make this video really boring and is not convincing to anybody who doesn't already hold the opinion you're defending. Just be aware I'm using a very different approach to this conversation. But without further ado, if you couldn't tell already by my Giga Chad voice, that's smoother than butter. Oh yeah. I'm trans. I actually very rarely bring it up on my channel. The last time I brought it up, I was talking about Chris-Chan, and that was like 7-8 months ago. So why am I talking about it now? Well, a couple of reasons. First, it matters personally to me, and I wanted to make a video like this for a while. Second, every other time I've addressed it, it's been part of another video, so I want it to be its own standalone thing. Third, I've participated in arguments with other people in real life and on the internet about this subject, so it's fresh on my mind, and I know Mike watches my videos, so hey Mike, trust me, I'm not upset. I was gonna do this video anyway, it's just fresh on my mind now. I'm not mad at Jen, okay, don't take it that way. Fourth, I made mistakes when arguing for my positions, so I just want to make a video where I can compile all of my thoughts in one place and thoroughly address every argument I've heard. Fifth, and this might be kind of petty, but I really enjoy making transphobes angry. I'm talking about the people who only read the title of this video and are now aggressively and angrily cursing at me in the comments section with a signature air of smugness that would make even me sick to my stomach. I mean, they're smug in the way that only somebody who is absolutely wrong about everything could be. So, let's have a focal point to argue around. This'll make it easier to understand where these people might be coming from. Here's an interaction I had on Twitter the other day. Everyone's favorite waste of time, Twitter. Yeah, I do have a Twitter. I don't advertise it because I don't tweet a whole lot. I just retweet funny pictures and occasionally comment on stuff. I very rarely argue with people on the internet anymore. This was a post retweeted by Cringe Political Posts. It's an account that I follow. The point of this tweet, I guess, is to see, I don't really know what this tweet is trying to say, because apparently these are alleged trans pedophiles, and these people say that all these people who say trans women are women, apparently that's who this is addressed to. I mean, do you guys know the point of this? I don't, and I commented that basic idea, as you could see here, which got a respectable 15 likes. Hold your applause. Hold your applause. Hold your applause. Because every time you make a statement that even sort of implies that trans women are women, you'll get that guy in your replies. Who is that guy? Well, this guy is being that guy right now. Affirm, no, they're not, from the man who has a clown for an avatar. I mean, at least he understands that he's a clown, and I respect that. And this argument goes as such. Define what a woman is. Look at all those laughing faces. Again, the sheer level of smug is off the charts. Once he is asked to define what a woman is, he does. Interesting. Now, where have I seen this explanation before? Oh, look at that! Word for word from the first result on Google. Well, shit, I guess you got me there, man. Whatever shall I do to win this argument? Now, before I do all that, let me say if you agree with this guy here, it doesn't make you a bigot or a bad person. I know you've probably been called a bigot and all that stuff, but just know that there's more to my reasoning than that. I'm going to show you why your logic is so bad, and hopefully you realize on your own that it isn't a good argument. All I'm asking you to do is consider the following argument. Wait a minute. What's this? According to dictionary.com, a woman is an adult female human being, one paradigm of gender and biological sex for adult human beings. Well, now that's odd. What is this gender thing? I know scientists talk about biological sex when discussing women, and they always say female, so what is this gender? What is this gender thing I've honestly never heard of in my life? Obvious sarcasm. Oh, I've got an idea. Let us use our best friend Google to find out, much like our buddy did not too long ago. Wait a minute. Gender refers to cultural and social differences rather than biological ones. Oh, I see. That's what makes it different from sex. Cool. So, hold your horses. Fuck, I sound old. But hold your horses. If woman is a gendered term, and gender is something that varies based on culture and society, well then, what is a real woman or man? Let's turn to Google again. Oh, this is fun, isn't it? What is a real man, Google? 11 common traits of a real man. He must be passionate about something. Okay, alright. Difference between dating a boy and dating a real man. Ah, so there is a big difference, I guess. Alright. Makes decisions based on what's right, genuine self-confidence, and true masculinity. Oh, okay. Oh, boy. There's a lot to being a real man. So, what is this masculinity? Masculinity thing? What is that, Google? Google is telling me that masculinity is a social expectation of being a man. Seems wonderfully vague and highly up to interpretation. Refers to behavior and attributes that are considered appropriate for men and boys in a given society. Well, hey now, I'm an all-star. Also, I have a few questions. What if men were to, for instance, not live up to these attributes? Does that make him, perhaps, not a real man? 'Cause clearly, there's a difference here. Also, at what point would a man not be considered a man, but instead a woman, assuming that this is just one giant binary scale and assuming that you could only be one or the other? But many would be quick as lightning to tell me, you don't get it. If you got a dick, you're a man. End of story. Well, if that's true, why are all men so different from each other? Why do some men not meet the expected social expectation? Why aren't all men strong, for instance? Why aren't all men self-reliant or all very intelligent? You have a dick, don't you? Where is it? You're a man. You're supposed to be a man. You must be this way. I mean, seriously, think about this critically for a second. What about having a vagina makes you want to wash dishes and wear makeup? I mean, I hope now you understand how backwards that thinking really is. I'll summarize my argument thus far for the nosebleeds. Saying that trans women aren't women doesn't make sense, simply because there's no consistent definition of a woman. There's no consistent definition of a man either. For all those conservatives who argue you can't be a woman because you can't give birth, you are explicitly saying that infertile women aren't women. And if you come back with, well, you don't have to give birth to be a woman, Well, congratulations. You just undermined your entire argument by proving there's a gray area in who can be considered a woman. Same goes for the TERFs who argue that trans women are a threat to human rights. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this stupid crap. The most glaring issue is that are women's rights so fragile that somebody with an Adam's apple wearing a dress is threatening to it? If that is enough to undermine all of women's rights, it wasn't all that strong to begin with. So when you both tell me trans women aren't women, what you're actually saying is trans women aren't your definition of a woman. They don't fulfill your idea of what a woman is. There's no logic here. It's nothing but feelings, plain and simple. Wow. I just realized that the radical left and conservatives can have agreements. Isn't that fucking wild? I feel like it's important to state that the argument is over at this point. The question was, are trans women women? In order to answer that, we need to define women. And while Google will tell you one thing, it would be irresponsible to ignore the entire idea and functional use of gender as a concept. That, however, will put things into sharper focus, as you can clearly see. So alright, I win. Trans women are women. A winner is me. Fatality. All your base are belong to me. Time for pizza and ice cream and Mario Party, right? No, of course not. If it was really that easy, we wouldn't be arguing, now would we? At this point in the argument, the especially stubborn that guy would start to get very conspiratorial. They go from zero to Alex Jones instantly. You don't get it. The gender used to mean just sex, and that's it. But now it means all the leftist junk and brainwashing kids into becoming metrosexual zombies and turning the frickin' frogs gay. The gay agenda is trying to manipulate our kids into becoming gay and exposed to rampant sexual conduct. Of course, I'm not interested in arguing with conspiracy theories. I mean, why don't we just argue whether or not leprechauns exist? That's just as unproductive. You are correct about one thing, though. The definition of gender did change. You want to know why it changed? Because science isn't a static thing. We learn new things all the time. Several reputable medical institutions recognize the existence and validity of trans people, and with that information, we adapted. It changed for the same reason that the word retard isn't used to describe a mentally ill person. Isn't it also kind of strange how transphobes turn to what science says only when it reaffirms their personal bias and ditch it when it doesn't? Yeah, sorry guys, that's not how science works. You either take it or leave it. Alright, so now it's over, right? We all get pizza and ice cream and Waluigi gets destroyed by Donkey Kong and Mario Party, right? No, of course not. Because on the internet, the argument never ends. Global warming will turn this planet into Fallout New Vegas before this argument will ever end. At this point, if that guy doesn't just ghost the conversation after being ass-pounded so hard, they'll do what all transphobes and homophobes have done before them. They hide behind children. If they start doing this, this is 100% proof that you have won the argument, without a shadow of a doubt. Hiding behind children is what you do when you've been backed into a corner, but you still want to cling on to your outdated worldview. You'll probably get a seemingly non-stop barrage of article after article of, look at what they're teaching in schools, blah 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 gender ideology, blah 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 8-year-old transitioning, blah 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 drag queens, blah 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 children, blah 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 gay pride parades, blah blah blah. It continues ad nauseum. Now, not all of these are false, but some of them are dubious in their claims and obviously have a slant to them, but ultimately, I don't give a shit whether all of them are true. It's meaningless. Yes, bad things happen. Bad things involving gay people happen. So fucking what? What are you gonna do about it? What practical solutions do you have that will stop this shit from happening? I ask that rhetorically because I know what their solution is. Literally banning it completely. You can't even mention. They don't even want you to mention that trans people exist in schools because this offends them so deeply. They did the same shit back in the 90s when they were saying that if gay people got into schools, they would try to convert people into being gay. They would convert them into the homosexual cult or what the fuck ever. which of course never actually happened, but since trans people are the new minority to shit on, they use the same tried and true tactics. Blah 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 hormones, blah 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 trans suicide, blah 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 detransitioners. It never ends, like I told you. The years start coming, and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for... Sorry. I'm sorry. If it seems like I'm not taking these arguments seriously, it's 'cause I can't. This is just what happens when you only read the headlines and don't actually read any of the articles. See, if you knew anything about what you were talking about, you would know that cisgendered people use hormones all the time, sometimes for sports enhancement and some for medical needs. Hormones also require a prescription given by a trained doctor who specializes in these fields. This also ties into the trans suicide issues, which is also widely misunderstood. You may think it's because of kids transitioning, which is completely false, because very few kids that are confirmed trans ever transition at any point in their life, and the ones that do often report feeling happier and more comfortable in their body. So why is this trans suicide rate so high? Well, think about it. What's the most common reason that kids kill themselves in the first place? Kids who are often subjected to abuse at home and at school, right? How do you think kids who feel funny about their gender get treated at school? That's right, they get bullied. Kids don't understand much about the world around them yet, so any deviation from the norm will lead them to getting bullied. It's almost like there's a reason education institutions are trying to teach kids that trans people exist, because it has a positive effect on how kids are treated in school. And before you say it, I don't agree with absolutely 100% of everything that's being taught at all times everywhere, but eliminating it entirely from school is not the answer. I already hear the angry rebuttals. Adults should not get to decide a kid's gender. Sure, you're right, I agree with that. Nobody should determine what a kid's identity should be. There's just one little problem. What if that child is trans and you do everything possible to deny it and sweep it under the rug? I would hope you'd agree that both of these are equally wrong. There have always been kids who question their gender. They always existed, and they always will exist. Stop trying to sweep them under the rug for the sake of your own ego. I find it endlessly amusing to listen to people whose number one priority is freedom, but do everything to restrict freedom against things that make them personally offended. There's too many examples of this, but it's especially funny when it's against things that do not affect them at all. Like what someone identifies as or wants to be called. You can virtue signal all day about protecting the kids all you want. You're still trying to restrict freedom. Whatever happened to the free marketplace of ideas, huh? If these ideas are really so bad, they would have been gone by now, right? You don't like what your kids are being taught? Homeschool them. No one is making you send them to public education after all. Don't get me wrong here. I don't like the level of infighting in the LGBT. There's way too fucking much of it for my taste. But I also refuse to stand with the GOP who just wants to live in fantasy land and pretend like the whole gender thing was a George Soros-esque plot to turn every man into a woman so China can finally dominate the solar system or something equally batshit. One final epilogue. If you made it this far and have had your mind changed, even in some minor way, then I'm proud of you. I'm a little annoyed at the tendency of the LGBT to abuse the word bigot. That's not a word I use lightly, because nobody will listen to you if you use it wrong. I really hope that I didn't come off like I'm calling anybody I don't like a bigot, because I don't believe that. There are plenty of people who agree with turf arguments who are like perfectly nice and tolerant towards everybody in practice. Look, I know everybody has an agenda to push. Everybody does, including me. That's literally what this entire video is. Pushing an agenda is not a valid criticism of an idea, because everyone pushes their personal agenda all the time. My problems are when you push an agenda filled with lies, bad faith arguments, and poor reasoning. I don't care if you fully agree with everything I say or not. That does not concern me. I just want to leave you with this. I could speak for the trans community when I say that we don't want to take over your society. We don't want to take petty revenge on the straights. We don't want to ban you for wrongthink or any stupid shit like that. We just want to live our lives. We just want to be who we are without the threat of being discriminated against for how we choose to present ourselves. We want to participate in society. We want to enjoy our lives and build a better world for the next generation. The average person, the average American, is not the problem here. It's the bigoted Congress people who draft laws that force me to use a certain bathroom or a certain changing room. The people who assume I'm a criminal for no reason other than I'm different from everybody else. If I could ask anything from you, I'd ask you to please stop voting for culture justice warriors like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ron DeSantis, and anybody else endorsed by the orange-haired Voldemort. Maybe instead, vote for somebody who actually, gives a shit about improving your standard of living, or at least someone who cares a little bit about policy, instead of just crying about being banned on Twitter for the 9,000th time for deliberately being an asshole to a trans person. But to be less pedantic, I'd like to leave you with some perspective. Out of all the arguments I've had on this topic, it helped me come to a realization that is sorely needed. Most average people that you can meet and talk to in real life have little to no issues with trans identity. Take this from somebody who's lived as a trans woman for a decade plus. Most people don't give a shit about what you really have between your legs because they tend to have things that are actually worth worrying about instead of someone who wants to be called they, them. What they actually care about is you as a person. They care about how you are as a person. If they like you, they will be more than happy to call you they, them, zir, bun self, or whatever the flying fuck you want to be called. So take it from me. Don't tie your entire personality to your gender identity. I sadly see quite a few trans people doing this, and it kind of pisses me off, I'm not gonna lie. Look, it's only one piece of the puzzle that defines you. Plus, it's helpful not to mimic the behavior of the idiots you're trying to separate yourself from. You are not your gender identity. Your gender identity is part of you, if that makes sense. Most people are rational enough to realize life is way too short to care this much about something that has zero effect on their everyday life. I can't wait for the World War III level trench warfare that will be the comment section of this video. I also can't wait for it to be posted on Reddit so a ton of TERFs can write me a 600,000 word college thesis paper on why I'm wrong, filled with anecdotes, bias studies, contradictions, horrible spelling and grammar, the like. I also can't wait for conservatives to post a smug-ass rebuttal after only reading the title while also telling me how they only care about facts over feelings, bro. The internet's a wonderful place, isn't it? I'm Karina McDaniels, everybody's favorite little angel. Am I evil? Nah, not really. I'm just another asshole with an opinion on the internet. Even opinions that are as sexy as mine are still just opinions. But I'm afraid it's time for me to go, kids. My master is beckoning for my presence, most likely for a brand deal needed for extra revenue. Remember, love with your heart, use your head for everything else. Yeah. So, see you later or something. Love you.